Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This was a tremendous panel and a great hearing. So thank you, Chairman, for that. Tons of questions, but so I'm going to try to put them in some sense of order. But Ms. Gordon, I appreciated your testimony. And EPCA, the original EPCA, I didn't know there was reporting requirements, more transparency. And following up on what Congressman Barton said, there's probably some truth to getting more information so that markets can operate more effectively and efficiently. So I appreciate those comments, because there's different type of crude oil, and that's going to be the major front of my question. But we also know refineries have made major investments based upon a world they perceived 6 years ago, which has significantly changed today, from heavy crude to light sweet and refinery expansions. And I think the other thing that's not been part of this discussion or debate is transportation costs and long pipelines versus what could actually happen in the future with all these more localized resources available, is that you could see closer interaction between these new finds and more local refineries in a more localized system. Mr. Pugliarsi, I appreciated the statement, because the need for a production platform in a stable part of the world, I think is really not just for what it does on hedging the risks, the volatile risk of pricing, really kind of addressing my colleague from Kentucky's question, but also internationally. And I focus on Eastern Europe a lot of times, and I understand energy extortion. And so importation of LNG, which we've passed through the House that we would like to see for our allies in Europe and Eastern Europe, I think the same would be true on crude oil exports. But you have to have a stable platform to be able to do that, hence the next kind of position. Because even in the map, the figure that you have in your testimony, figure 3, you have these major basins, but there's probably more that are going to develop, like the Southern Illinois Basin, which now we've gone through the legislative process. But so you got the Illinois Basin, we still got more deep water applications. We've got ANWR debate that will always be there. We have the National Petroleum Reserve. We have the Atlantic Coast exploration. We have Keystone XL debate. And what I hear, I think, is that, because I'm afraid we have this huge supply, but we can't rely on government to set these parameters. We've got to let the markets do it. The markets will then send a signal of which of these oil basins are recoverable based upon the pricing of a barrel of crude oil. Some of these may not be able to be now exploited because the cost of recovery is high. But then in the case where there is a new change in world dynamics, then that cost might be available for continued exploration. Do I make sense in any of that analysis?
Right now, there's a race going on between the lower valuations and the advances in well productivity and technology. As I said, we're seeing some things. They're out there a few years. Some things are very near, in which, if you take a traditional hydraulic fracturing job, across the U.S., 40% of those frac jobs are very uneconomic in some ways, or they're 40% of the perforations on a horizontal pipe are not working. But there's technologies developing now that are going to drastically improve that. So you could have a high-cost basin, which doesn't look like it's doing too well right away. In a few years, things can change. And once again, we want strategies which are robust under uncertainty. We try to prescribe the future. We're going to be wrong.
Dr. Eminger, in your testimony, you did state that increasing oil exports will help lower the prices at the pump. That was part of your written testimony.
Lower gasoline prices, yes, sir.
And then the last thing I want to ask, because it's been raised, because we're now having people think we might do this, we're starting to get talked to by a lot of people. Is there a difference? Because really, except Ms. Gordon started separating heavy, sour, and light sweet. Is there a difference? Is there a credible argument in separating the crude oil price and easing the ban on one but not easing the ban on the other? And that'll be my last question. If some people want to weigh in, I'd appreciate it.
I just will add that I think that the time is coming that we're going to have baskets of crude that are split much more on quality than on location. I think that these oils are quite different from each other, and they beget very long-term investments that last generations. So the market needs this information. So whether regulations follow or not, I think that the idea of separating oils into these baskets, which is somewhat done but not largely in the market right now, is probably a wave of the future.
The rest of your chicken, not going to answer that question. All right, you're back.